You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 12 of the Battered MLS Fans podcast. I am your host, Daniel Granada, and alongside me, as always, we have a panel of MLS podcasters, content creators from across the league and the country. So let me go start introducing them. Let me start from, Fabian, this is like your 37th time on the show, even though we've only 12 episodes in. What's going on, Fabian? How you doing?
It's a pleasure of mine to be on the show, and it's a blast always.
I got some feedback coming in.
Is that mine?
I'm not sure. I got feedback from somewhere. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. It went away, so it might be yours, Fabian.
Yeah, we found it.
You think it was me?
Yeah. We're good now.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, what's up, guys? It's a pleasure to be on, like always. I just wanted to say, how long is this MLS season? I mean, my God, I feel like we've really been doing this for a while now. I mean, I remember in February I was at Goalkeeper covering the teams, and man, this is like the longest season of all time. So let's find a way to cut this a little down, I think, next year.
I kind of like it. I like it. It gives me something to look forward to. I like it. But then I'm a sicko like that. And then Bob returning again. What's going on, Bob?
Hey, not too much. Just
plug your stuff.
Yeah, just keeping busy, getting after it. My podcast, The Designated Pundits, covers all Major League Soccer. We do weekly recap shows and predictions, focusing heavily on sports betting. That is kind of what I'm known for. You can find me on the Bet US Major League Soccer show as an MLS expert who went up over 7 units this past week, live for everyone to hear. Finally in the positive again on the year. That's always a difficult thing to do live 4 days in advance we record Tuesdays live 4:00 before some sportsbook even have the real odds out there. So, just fighting the good fight and, just doing it. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
For sure. And I started talking to the chat that I just recently started getting into sports betting. So I got to check Bob out because
so that's why me and Dion are both on the stream. Like you found sports betting, and now you need to jump both feet full in.
I gotta build those connections, and then I'll use that transition to bring on Dion, the nerdy soccer guy. What's going on, Dion?
Oh, not too much. Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm from the Nerdy Soccer Guy YouTube channel. I do predictions, and then I also live stream games where the community actually picks the games. I put out a post, on the community tab, and they go and vote which match we watch on the live streams each week. So, and then it's Nerdy Soccer Guy on Twitter also.
So, of out of the 37 match weeks, how many times have you had to watch Inter Miami?
Well, there's times that I leave Inter Miami off for a reason.
Okay.
Every single time they're the winner. It doesn't matter.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then from the designated players, Andrew, what's going on?
Hey, y'all. How are you? Thanks for having me. I think the feedback might have been mine. I had a new mic about 2 weeks ago, but I haven't had a chance to set it up because I've been out of power for like 10 days. We just got it back the other day. So still working on the little stuff.
You're in the Carolinas, right?
Yeah. I'm out in South Carolina. So we got the random turn of Helene, and it just crushed us. But we're back now. Happy to be here. Back with the designated players. We're starting back up next week. And we also do predictions on the week, not nearly as in-depth as some of my other bettors here, but I'm hypothetically up $300. So I'm also kind of getting lucky this year. But we do both MLS news and MLS history on our show. So we go current and back in time, and we do some predictions as well. So we're kind of all three phases of time, if you will, and really happy to be here. I've been kind of following the show for the last 11 episodes, and I'm real happy to be on.
Oh man, I appreciate that. And without further ado, let's jump straight into it. And we're gonna go over some of the awards, but I want to start with the big one, the one that everybody's talking about, the one that I feel should go to the GOAT, right? And before anybody jumps on me, let me preface this by saying I am not a Messi obsessed fan. Okay, I get a lot of hate from Inter Miami fans and new Inter Miami fans because I do not bend over backwards for Messi. Okay, but in this scenario, I do believe that Messi should win MVP. I'm kind of curious to hear what everybody else has to say as far as this discussion goes, because I hear a lot of people say that it shouldn't be him. And most of the argument is strictly because he's only played 18, probably 19 games by next week. So I'll start off with Mr. Columbus himself, Mr. Fabian.
Me, yeah, Mr. Columbus. No, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, if you just add 10 games to his schedule, he's MVP anyway. So that's my whole thing. Even if you don't play all the games, but you have the best stats, you have to be MVP. So it really depends on what you consider MVP, right? Is it the best player that makes the team the best they possibly can, or is it just the best player statistically, right? If you look at a guy like Evander, I think he would be in the running if Portland wasn't so bad. I think Portland barely making moving to Ohio. No, I don't know about that. Portland barely making the playoffs, I think, is something that really hurts Evander's case, to be honest. And I think if Portland was maybe sitting in third or fourth, even, I think they could have a chance to seriously have an MVP on their team. And I spoke to Evander before the season. I spoke to him at Goalkeeper, and being an MVP candidate was definitely one of the things he wanted to achieve. And here we are, right? So it's interesting.
No, he's definitely in the conversation. But yeah, like you said, right now in Supporter Shield standings, I believe they're 16th.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I think that's way too far down to win Supporter Shield. But Bob disagrees. So Bob,
yeah,
who's your vote for MVP?
I was expecting to be asked a different question. So as far as it goes for Messi, yes, you need to consider anyone who's stepped on a field in Major League Soccer to be a possible MVP candidate.
Okay.
My thing is, I tend to emphasize the word valuable to his team. And that was not Messi. You can't be 10-2-3 without the star player and then claim that player is so important you can't do anything without them. So yes, we can consider Messi. I don't care if he played one game, we can consider him. He's just not the right choice. Now, that being said, asking me who I think will win is a lot different. I still think it's going to go to Messi, but that's not who should win. Who would
you choose?
Evander from Portland, 1,000%. And Fabian's 100% wrong on his reasoning there. And the reason why is because this is a team that had a major transformation in the middle of the season. They were awful. They had a 9-game winless streak with 3 draws and 6 wins at the beginning of the season. But since then, anyone who bets, Dion, will tell you they have been lights out. They are a fantastic team this season. 9 wins, 5 draws, 3 losses at home. Only 3 losses, and they had a nice 7-2-1 stretch mid-season. If they hadn't been as bad as they were in that 0-3-6 streak, they would easily be one of the top teams in the West. And you act like, oh, they barely snuck in. They're 5 points out of 5th and 10 points out of 3rd. Like 2 wins and a draw in that span. And we're talking about a completely different thing. If you've watched Evander play, you know he is invaluable to his team. He is the most valuable player. And when that team was missing, they signed Cabecita mid-season. And that's what turned everything around because Evander needed an outlet to help shine. 15 goals, 14 assists. Fantastic. Yeah, he had more time. Yeah, he's on a team that's worse. But if you take him off that team, they're not in the playoffs. And if you take Messi off of Miami, they're exactly where they are now because they missed him for half the season.
Absolutely not.
I don't think so. Yeah,
absolutely not. If you look back at the beginning of the season, when Messi was not playing, that team was lost. They played 6 games without him. They were 2-2-2. They inked out one of those victories. They were 2-2-2 without him the first 18 games before Copa America. They were horrible without him. Now, since then, I'm glad you brought that up. They played 9 games without him. Of those 9 games, they won 8. Of those 8 games, 6 of those were against non-playoff teams. You said yourself, everybody makes the playoffs. So that means the few teams that don't make the playoffs are really bad. And 6 of those really bad teams are the teams that they beat during the summer. So I think it's overblown the amount of games that they won without him because they were garbage teams.
I would argue that the true argument for MVP for Messi is how everyone wanted to play with him and he got a lot of players on contract. That's an off the field thing. Like Messi's most valuable contribution to Inter Miami was what happened off the field, getting players to come and sub in, to sign for less, to come and play DP contracts for $300,000 a year. That's Messi's real contribution. So yeah, I'm going to disagree on that one. And I think, you have a fantastic coach, a fantastic crew around him. Was Messi valuable? Yes, because of intangibles, but on the field, I feel like Evander had a much bigger impact on his team.
Look, I want to
But-
say this real quick too. If Inter Miami wasn't trying for the points record, I think you would have a fair case then. But if they're about to break the points record and make history, you're gonna have to give the MVP to someone that's on that team. There's no way that the MVP is given to someone that's not on that team.
And without Messi, they don't get that supporter shield. They don't, especially those first 18 games. If you go back and you revisit those games, like that team was lost without him. They salvaged the point in LA because of some Messi magic at the end of the game. Like he carried that team those first 18 games. Now, and Jordi Alba missed 6 games those first 18 games. Diego Gomez was injured for a month. They had a lot of injuries also, and Messi made up for a lot of that stuff. Now, they got healthy in the summer, and then the summer came. They had bad competition, and then they ended up winning and beating up on some bad teams. I think it's overblown that they did so well without him. I think he's getting slighted when people say that. But I get both that argument. And Dion,
I think you're almost slighting Tata Martino by saying that it's like a one-man show. It's certainly not. It's a system, and it's every player on the roster better than every player that they play, every opponent.
okay. I mean, look, I'm a Tata defender, but a lot of people in Miami would disagree with you. I'm one of the few Tata defenders down here. Dion.
Hey, speaking
What
of
do you
Tata,
think?
I'm a Tata fan just because of what
Me
he did
too.
in Atlanta. I mean, he did great things in Atlanta at the beginning, and then I think he's doing great down there in Miami. But I have to agree with a lot of what Bob said. Yes, Messi most likely will get it. We know that. And granted, 17 goals, 10 assists, and 18 matches. That's fantastic.
15 assists if you count the hockey assist.
I guess if you count the hockey assist here. But I don't think that he is truly as valuable as other players. I know that you all touched on Evander, but you got to look at Acosta and Cucho for Columbus. I mean, especially Acosta for Cincinnati. In my video that I released today, I mean, Acosta had 53% of goal contributions to all of Cincinnati's goals. I mean, he is valuable to his team, where Inter Miami didn't need Messi for every game. Yes, like you all touched on it, like 2-2-2, and then that span of 8 games weren't against the best teams. They still got the job done. They're still in the position that they're in. Yes, Messi did a great job bringing, anybody's going to follow Messi, into their, I would want to play with the GOAT too if I played. And I think that Messi is the GOAT and everything, but I don't think Messi should win it, but he will.
And statistically, I agree with Lucho, the whole 56% of the goal. When Messi gets on the pitch, though, he's averaging 1.8 contributions per game, almost 2 goal contributions. As soon as he steps on the pitch, you're almost guaranteed 2 goals. Like, that's unheard of. That is MVP. The closest person to him is Cucho and Evander. They're both tied at 1.2 goal contributions per game. Like, Messi is insane. When he gets on the pitch, he is the most valuable. Now, if you want to say that he didn't play enough to give it to him, that's a different story. But when he's playing, he is hands down the MVP of the league. Andrew, what do you think?
I think that we're focused on a lot of players here, and our podcast is an engineer and an accountant, man. We look at numbers all day long. And one of the players whose numbers are almost overshadowed by one of his players that plays with him is Gabriel Peck out of LA Galaxy, right? If you look at his numbers, he is top 10 in goals and assists. He's second in expected goal contributions. He is leading the league in progressive carries. He's leading the league in progressive passes received. He's top 20 in total shot creating actions, top 5 in goal creating actions. I mean, if you look at all the, I made a list of a couple people, right? Messi is up there, Lucho, Buanga, Cucho, and Chicharito were the kind of 5 that I looked at. And I think Messi might be the only one who's close to checking all of those boxes together. But the crazy part about that is LA didn't nominate him for MVP. Like, they put out that list of players who each team nominated. Gabriel Peck is not on that list, which I think is insane. But if you go from there, I agree with both what Bob and Fabian were saying, where you have to give it to somebody whose team was successful with them. But you also can't give it to somebody who, if they weren't in the team, their team was also successful. I think that's a kind of weird middle ground where Evander and Messi were both my like initial top two until I started thinking about stuff like that. When I combine all of that together with the stats and with the numbers, I look at Cucho Hernandez as somebody who is leading this race for me. And it's not just his numbers, right? 28 goal contributions, only 2 of those being penalties, top 5 in expected goal contributions, right? Like great numbers, right? You look at him, you know, speaking fantasy, right? We always talk about fantasy, always a first choice in fantasy, you know, MLS, right? But if you watch the way he plays between his playmaking, his defending, his balls in the air, he does everything. And he's such a key part to that crew system. And if you take him out of that crew system, I don't think they're as successful as they are. Not saying that they drop all the way down to, San Jose level, but I like you watch him play and he fits into this system perfectly. And they probably, you know, put it around him and put the players around him and be successful there. But because of all of the things that he does, not just goals and assists, that system falls apart, and I believe that is the definition of MVP to me. So that's who I would go with is Cucho. Now, who do I think is going to get it? I think Messi's going to win the award. But if I look at it in that definition, I would give it to Cucho Hernandez.
I'm with you. I've come on here and I've said plenty of times, Messi doesn't get it. I think Cucho should win it. I know some people say Luis Suarez also should be considered. I think Luis Suarez is out of the conversation just because if somebody's going to get it on Inter Miami, it's going to be Messi. I think Cucho should probably get it. But I stick with the whole goal contributions. I think that, you know, he's just done a lot when he is on the pitch. But it's hard to argue the whole not on there enough. Now, I was looking it up, and I know, was it Andrew? You said you would do some MLS history. Now, in 2011, De Rosario won it, and he played only 18 games. For the was it DC United?
I think it might have been. Was that his Toronto year? Might have been his Toronto year.
It might have been. Yeah. He got traded.
Might have been Toronto.
Yeah. And then who else was it? Was it McGee in 2013 for the Fire? Only played, I think, like 21, 22 games because he got traded in the middle of the year. So there are some players that have played for specific teams for less than 22 games that have won the award also. So I mean, this precedent there for not playing a bunch of games. And again, I think that people don't realize that Messi actually won some of these games, and the team wasn't as good as they think without Messi.
For the record, I don't think anyone here is arguing that Messi shouldn't win because he hasn't played enough games. I haven't heard. No one is making that argument, correct? I just want to be like spotting, because I hear that argument all the time. Like the experts are saying that Messi shouldn't because he hasn't played enough. No one's making that argument. No, it doesn't matter if you played 2 games or 30. MVP is MVP is MVP.
Now. Yeah, it can't be 2 anymore. They changed the qualifications.
Yeah, fair enough.
So your argument was the team was good without him.
Yes, my argument is the team is still very good without him. Whereas, Portland also, had Evander. 45% of his team's goals were contributed by Evander, and they scored a lot this season. And I just think, for me, I'm
players that have 15 goals or more, no, or more than double-digit goals. They got some ballers over there. Yeah. Well, look, they're winning despite Phil Neville, so for sure.
build the statue now. Go for it.
Yeah. All right. So anybody else wanted to comment on the MVP? Everybody assumes that Messi's going to win it, is what I'm hearing. All right. Everybody assumes. Look,
I think Cucho had a good chance, but then when Messi,
I think that game cemented it for Messi. I agree.
Yeah, and he missed the penalty too. I think that was a big moment. Okay, I think Messi is going to win over Cucho if it comes down to those two.
So I'm going to go to the next one, and I have a feeling I know where Bob's going with this one. Coach of the Year. They put out the nominees, right? MVP, I think we could kind of shorten the list to 4 or 5. Coach of the Year, they put out the list. Now, I'm assuming, Bob, you're going to go Tata.
Absolutely not.
Oh,
again, it's for the opposite reason. It's because he has a team that was built to succeed. He didn't change anything. He has winners.
You know what?
Chris Armas is absolutely the correct answer. Yes. Chris Armas took a team that was 5-12-14 last season, made him 15-5-13, 10-3-4 at home. Colorado's a fortress again. They always had the geographical advantage of playing at altitude. Chris Armas, and part of it is because we habitually, and I've maybe fallen victim a little bit, although I've never been an Armas hater. People talk down about him. People talk down to him. People disrespect Chris Armas left and right, and he took a team that is garbage. They did add pieces. This is not as bad of a team as the roster.
Expensive pieces.
Yes, but they were still absolutely awful, and they did what a growing team does. They took out the first step. They lost how many less games? A lot. They won 10 more games than last season already. This is, they got Georgi Mihailovic, Zach Steffen. They brought back Sam Vines, I believe. Who else did they get? Does Kevin Cabral count? Come on, Omir Fernandez. I had to watch him play for 5 years every weekend.
We're not taking Omir hate on this podcast. I'm sorry. Not having that.
But hey, he was the biggest free agent acquisition almost last year, right? So
when I look at coaches, I also asked myself, who got better in the time that they were coach? And on the Colorado Rapids, the answer is just about every player on the squad. They just look better. They're cohesive and they're taking chances. Let's be real. They've lost just about as many games as last year. The difference is they're not drawing. They're going out. They're playing aggressive. They're getting the 2 extra points by putting in a win, and that's what's doing it. It's just, for me, watching them play, seeing a system implemented, and just getting some players that fit the system. I understand you want to think Omir Fernandez is a game changer. He's not. It is what it is. But Chris Armas is absolutely coach of the year for me. Tata Martino, a very close second, because he has the added personality management. He has so many superstars. He needs to fit on that squad and keep happy, and that is a skill in and of itself. But for me, when I think Major League Soccer, I think system over.
Okay, that's fair. But before the season started, and even going into Copa America, nobody thought that Inter Miami would be winning the Supporters Shield. Because of the fact that Messi and Suarez were going to be gone, impossible that they can keep this going. And like you said just 10 minutes ago, Tata helped it keep going. They won Supporters Shield. If they break the points record, despite Messi and Suarez missing so many games, you don't think Tata deserves Coach of the Year for that reason? If it wasn't for the Supporters Shield or the points record, then I would say, okay, Chris Armas. I like Dean Smith also. I think he does so much with so little in the attack. Yeah, fantastic. But so you wouldn't take that into consideration?
Of course I take it into consideration. I also think because of Tata Martino coming with such an air around him, the aura that he had when he was in Atlanta for so long, not for so long, and winning a trophy his first year there. I just think that I look at the underdogs who overperform their expectations, and that's certainly not Tata. He's never been an underdog this season. He did win with doubts around him. My doubts were more about the health of the older players and the willingness to go out and get all of the wins. I thought they were going to save it for an MLS Cup run. They had nothing to save. They just went out and got it. I do respect that, and Tata is very high on my list.
Fabian, Coach of the Year.
Yeah, look, in my opinion, I think if you're going to look at Colorado, I think you have to look at the LA Galaxy as well. Colorado was the worst team in the West, but the Galaxy were right above them, So them going from second to last to being the best team in the West and having a true chance of kind of going all the way this season, I think Greg Vanney should be in that conversation. But I think since we have a team that's very close to achieving history, I think it has to go to Tata, even though he obviously has the best roster. Chris Armas had a great season, but they've kind of gone down a little bit at the end of this, kind of going into the playoffs. They're sitting in 6th place. I think if the Rapids end up somewhere in 2nd or 3rd place, I could see that argument because they were really dead last season, and then going into 2nd place in the West, I think that would be a great story. But I think Tata is going to win it because of what he achieved without Messi during the summer, and what he achieved if they do win this points record for MLS season standings.
That's where I think also. Dion, what do you think?
Fabian, I'm on board pretty much with him. I think that Tata, you have to. I think Tata's going to win. I think Nancy should also be considered to continue his success from last season into this season. Sometimes that's pretty hard in MLS, but I think Tata is going to win it just because of what he has done with Messi missing out a handful of matches, but also getting that points record. I think that's where it's really going to line. I think that's how he's going to win it because they get the record.
Look, I think Nancy deserves a little bit more of a shout, but since this is MLS only, it's hard to kind of give him that shout. I would say if this was like a North American Coach of the Year, 100% Nancy should be up there, and he should win this because of what he did in CONCACAF, what he was able to do
and the Leagues Cup,
right? So it's just hard because this is MLS season only, right? But if we were doing this the whole year type of thing, yeah, Nancy would definitely win.
And Andrew.
Yeah, I want to just bring this back real quick to Chris Armas, because he was my initial gut feeling of like, man, he's turned this team around. If he doesn't get a result this weekend and results don't go in his way, he's playing in the play-in game. He finishes in 8th. And I know he did really, really well in Leagues Cup, and I know it feels like a much better team, and it is. But he like got them just a little bit higher, and that's what kind of threw it out for me. And granted, he revamped this whole team, right? Colorado were 5 points off the wooden spoon last year. They're in the Champions League next year. They made the MLS playoffs, but there is still a possibility he's playing in the play-in game. Like, it's not as big of a jump. If he had finished top 4 and locked up home field advantage right now, no question. I think he runs away with it. But for the fact that he is still has the possibility of playing in the first round, I don't know if I can give it to him. When we did our previews in February, I made a very not so bold prediction that Inter Miami would miss the playoffs. And the only reason they would miss the playoffs was because their big 4 would not play more than 20 games, all competitions together. Half of that was true, and the other half was they won the Supporters' Shield. And because of that, Tata Martino is my pick. And the reason I don't go with Nancy is for the exact reason you said, Daniel, it's not a North American. It's an MLS only. And if you were talking about his performances in Champions League, for example, like, definitely gets thrown in there because it's only MLS and only in the MLS season. I'm going to go Tata here.
So we got 4 Tata and 1 Armas. I don't think Dean Smith gets enough love. I think Dean Smith does so much with a little bit of offense he got.
I completely agree with Dean Smith possibly being up there too. And I was actually, you almost talked me into going on Vanny. Like he did exactly what Greg Vanny does. He's like, I need 2 all-star wingers. I need Puig to be the center. He took a bad collection of good players and turned it into a great team. Yeah. And I think if I had to do this over again, as much as I want to stand for Chris Armas, I think I might have to take Vanny. You broke my heart by not like following through and picking him as the winner for that one.
I think he's top 3. I mean, if they had a little bit of a down, like play of form at the end of the season, that kind of takes it a little bit away.
They lost 2 games out of 10. Like they're fantastic. I don't know. I love LA Galaxy. I'm changing my answer. I want Greg Vanny.
Now, does Tata get any love for the fact that Inter Miami was lower than Galaxy to end the year last year and are now Supporters' Shield champions and about to bring the points record?
Oh, yeah, of course.
They ended the year worse than the Galaxy.
I would put him second.
Year. All right, fair. So he was second before, and then Vanny jumped him, and
Vanny jumped and switched spots with Armas. Yeah, they did a little do-si-do.
Got it. All right. So newcomer of the year. I think this one's going to Luis Suarez. I think
this one's tough because Gabriel Peck's on the list, right? So this is kind of weird because there's people on the list that I wasn't expecting to be on the list either.
All right. So I already said who I think is going to get it. Gabriel Peck. Fabian, you think Gabriel Peck might get it?
I mean, I don't think so. My whole thing was he shouldn't be on this list because I thought he came in last year at the halfway point, or I don't know. I forgot what time Gabriel Peck came in, but I wasn't expecting him to be on this list. But if you look at this list, it's actually a pretty good list. Another guy that jumps out is Orjano. I think he deserves a good shout, especially for all the golazos he scored this year.
Mhm.
I don't know. Suarez for me was really the guy for the newcomer of the year for a long time. And then I saw a couple of names on this list and I was like, wait, hold up. Jonathan Rodriguez is another guy that should be up there too, because of the crazy season he had with Portland. And
him and Evander been balling, yeah.
Yeah, so that's another thing. I don't know. I don't see it as cookie
Clear
cutter
cut.
or as clear cut to win, right? So
I think everybody loves the. I mean, he's not going to get the Golden Boot anymore, but the fact that he was up there, I think that's why. I mean, everybody loves the stats, right? And that's why I just assumed that Luis Suarez was probably a shoo-in, but I could see it not being a shoo-in. Dion, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot of good names on this list, but I think that Suarez is going to win it just because it's Suarez and Inter Miami. But I'm not taking away, like, he performed. He scored goals. That's what he's supposed to do. But Oriana for Cincinnati is a good one. I like that one. And but yeah, I just think Suarez will probably end up winning it.
I just because he was in the Golden Boot race until near the end of the season. That's why I thought. Andrew, what do you think?
I mean, I already shared my big thoughts on Gabriel Peck. I think he should be an MVP runner. So for that's my pick, and it's not relatively close. I mean, I think I think your top three are Suarez, Oriano, and Peck. And honestly, like, I know everybody's like, oh, it's a kind of a good list. I'm not really wowed by a lot of people on that list. I think they're like good names that have potential to be really good, right? Like Marcel Hartel came in halfway through the year, right? Pitar Musa, when he gets some players around him with Dallas, will be all right. Cedric Touchard, same deal, but like, Bartosz Szliz, okay, Pavel Buka, okay, Omar Campos, like names that are like, okay, yeah, definitely solid players, but are they like game changers? Are they the best of the best? Probably not, right? So those are my top three, and I, like I said, the underlying numbers I really like of Gabriel Peck, and the fact that he was able to do that, and we talked about Greg Vanney turning that team around. Yeah, it's Gabriel Peck, and it wasn't relatively difficult for me to pick that.
Bob, you going the same way? Because I see you nodding.
Yeah, I did. And actually on my show notes, I went through Luis Suarez and why I wouldn't take him. 26 games, 20 starts, 18 goals, 7 assists, fantastic. But when it's called Newcomer of the Year, when you say new, I always look for a face that I don't know. And maybe that's wrong, maybe that's on me, but it's a semantics game.
That's fair.
Luis Suarez is not new to any of us, but I did not know Gabriel Peck until he was signed this winter. Comes over from Vasco da Gama, not a club I watch very often. And I got to see him. He only scored 11 goals and 10 assists in his previous 5 seasons. So even in Vasco da Gama, he wasn't a prolific scorer. Settles into LA, 15 goals, 12 assists, more league contributions than Suarez. Although, yes, he did play more games to get there. He, for me, Newcomer of the Year just means, and again, this is going to be a little different to everyone, a player I did not know. And I knew Luis Suarez. We knew he was going to be fantastic. And for that reason, I'm going to take Gabriel Peck too.
Did we? Did we know Suarez was going to be fantastic? There was a lot of people on Twitter saying that,
Well,
these are going to hold up for 4 games. Like,
I think most people assume that he wouldn't have the season he's having right now.
I think that we knew when he was available, he was going to be very good. But there were reports that he was getting cortisone shots every week in his knee and this and that. And I did not write those reports. I did not fact find those, but I did believe them. And if you told me that at the beginning of this, if you told me right now, season ends, Miami, whatever, loses to Galaxy in the final, whatever happens there, had to light up the chat there for a second. And you told me next year is Suarez's last year, he's going to fall apart, I would probably believe you again this offseason.
I had a hard time thinking that he was going to fall apart just because he won MVP like for the Brazilian league like 2 months prior. So I had a hard time believing that he would completely fall off of a cliff. Okay.
So all I know is this award. Sorry to cut you off, Dion. The award is going to go to a player that came in from the Brazilian league, either Orejano, Suarez, or Peck.
There you go. That's right. Vasco da Gama. Young player of the year. Now this is the tough part about me doing this show because Inter Miami has so many names that it almost feels like I'm a homer. But he was ranked the number one U22 player of the league, so I kind of feel like it has to be Diego Gomez. No, he's the one. He's already signed off to go to Brighton in January. He's the number one ranked U22 player in the league. I would assume Diego Gomez gets this award. I know most people that are watching this might call me a homer. I'll start with Fabian.
I think Diego Gomez is a great player and maybe has the best potential out of this list. But I think it has to go. I think it was a little bit of a robbery that he won it over Diego Luna. I thought Diego Luna was more important to his team. Diego Luna also had more goal contributions. Yes, he plays in a role that's more attacking, but
yeah, okay. I was gonna say,
yeah, but I still feel like if you take Diego Luna off of RSL, I don't even know if they're in the playoffs. That's the honest truth.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, I agree there. With what he said in principle, I was struggling with this actually because when we're doing the betting and stuff, we do like top tier players, and I don't necessarily focus a lot on the younger guys. One name that jumped right out was Andre Gomez from RSL, the other winger who had 13 goals, 7 assists, but he was traded, so he is ineligible. So yes, Diego Luna is great. Andre Gomez probably better, but unfortunately he left the team. The name that kept coming back, and I was thinking really hard, kept coming back to me from New England Revolution, Esmir Bajraktarevic, who and I think that I'm a little bit with my blinders on for MLS because he did have some international duties, played for the U.S. national team and now went to Bosnia and he's cap tied there, uses one-time transfer. He plays for such a bad team, but he still stood out enough that 2 different countries, wanted to bring him to play for their national team. I can't really say enough good things. I've watched him play a lot. He's, doing very well, although not someone who's going to show up on the stat card each and every week.
Oh, I love that. Dion.
So for me, Diego Gomez was definitely up there. And then I actually did my notes for these questions before they released the U22 stuff. And Gomez was on mine. I also liked Russell Rowe for Columbus. I thought he had a pretty good season, but this one might be different than a lot of you all. But I think Oliveira from LAFC had a pretty good season. And for as young as he is, I thought he had a good season too. But then looking at this, even Vargas for Charlotte, he had some inconsistencies throughout the year, but I still thought that he performed pretty well. So kind of like Bob, I don't really look at the younger guys whenever I do any of my stuff. But I would say that most likely Gomez is going to win it just because of the U22 that came out. But like I said, I liked Oliveira and Russell Rowe. Those were 2 that stood out to me this year.
Good shouts.
Yeah. And Andrew.
Yeah. I kind of went the easy one out here. Diego Gomez was kind of the one that jumped right out, right? Top 5. I think he's top 5 most expensive outbound transfer in the league at this point. Once that goes through, I may be wrong there, but I think he's at the very least he's close. And 7 goal contributions from center mid, right? And we talked about Diego Luna being a bit more advanced, so it's not really an apples to apples comparison. Already a full international for Paraguay. He started against Brazil and Uruguay in World Cup qualifying. You got a bit about you if a team is trusting you against those sorts of national teams. And just to go back to the Diego Luna shout, I think Bobby had it straight on the head. Diego Luna was good. That was the Andres Gomez show in RSL. That was he ran the show. He combined with Chicho Aranjo, and then Diego Luna was the 3rd guy there. I'm not saying every game, right? He had times where he popped out and did some stuff, but those Chicho and Gomez were the 2 guys for the entire first half of the season. I think Diego Luna's good. I think he's got a really good future. I don't think that he was a better pick than Diego Gomez here.
Take a look at RSL second half of the season. Chicho Arango's out, Gomez is out, and they're still sitting in a home advantage.
Top 4, yeah.
So I think it takes a lot. I mean, to do that without the players around you. Diego Gomez had legendary players around him. Let's not forget that either.
Yeah. Diego Gomez was a big time component for that summer league, the summer run they had also. But Diego Luma, I could see why you would say that he had a bigger impact on his team, because I mean you can't compare the impact that Diego Luna had compared to the one that Diego Gomez has, because obviously the players that Diego Gomez has on that team. So I could see all of that. Let me start with Bob on this one. Defender of the year. Now this one's a little tricky.
Easy.
For me, at least. Oh,
Easy.
for you, okay. Okay. I'll listen to you before I tell you mine. Mine's just in the East Coast.
I think this is such a strange award, because you can find guys like Kamal Miller, who's a great defender. He just can't put it together with anyone. Can't find a partner who's going to make him look good. But Seattle Sounders have done exactly that, and this is a results league, so I had to go with the two guys on the team that gave up the least amount of goals, the Seattle Sounders. I'm going to take Yamar as my pick here. There's a couple guys on Charlotte who could, fit into this too.
I was going to go Malanda. Okay.
I already have a Charlotte goalkeeper of the year. So, the side that conceded the least amount is the Seattle Sounders. You have two guys, Yamar and Jackson Reagan. Reagan's kind of the modern center back. He has great distributing numbers. If you look at like defenders, long pass percentage, distributing out the back, it's Jackson Reagan 100%. But for this, I just went most challenges won, challenge percentage, and that's Yamar. 34 goals allowed in 33 matches. That is a recipe for success, and that is what has Seattle looking like rocket fuel right now, just coming out the gate swinging. They were stagnant at the beginning of the season, but they've been a fantastic odds away bet recently too. They've just been blowing it up, and it's because the defense is so good. I would understand someone who would take Jackson Reagan, but I'm just going to go the other way and take Yamar.
Okay. All right. Fabian, who do you have for Defensive Player of the Year?
This was a little tough. That is a good shout. Yamar is great. I just don't know if I can give it to Reagan. Reagan, I feel like at sometimes he gets caught out of position. He's a great player. He's just a little younger. He's a little bit inexperienced. So Yamar is definitely worth. I mean, look at them. Look at Seattle with the late route or late push for the playoffs again every single year, right? And they're doing it once more. I mean, they fly under the radar, and then all of a sudden they have the least amount of goals scored on them, and they're in third place. So yeah, those are great shouts. I was gonna say Maya Yoshida because of what the LA Galaxy kind of were last year to what they are this year, but they gave up 48 goals. That's 14 more goals than Seattle. So it is a tough kind of sell for that. But I feel like he was a great leader in the back and deserves a little bit of credit. Another guy who kind of comes out to me, but is he really a defender? Jordi Alba. All those assists coming in from the defense is always something that is very, very beneficial. So could get a shout there. Tavon Gray's having a great season, one very similar to Jordi Alba. So if you want to put offensive stats into this, those two guys kind of come up to me. So I think there's a whole bunch of players, but yeah, you have to give it to a guy that has the least amount of goals scored. So Yamar is a great shout. Rudy Camacho is another one from the Columbus Crew that, they're down there. They only gave up 4 more goals than Seattle, and maybe some would say the Eastern Conference has better, offenses than the Western Conference. So he could possibly get a shot there too.
I would have gone Malanda from Charlotte, but Jordi Alba and Tomas Aviles being on there for Inter Miami is a crime. There should be no defender on Inter Miami on this list. I'm not sure what the hell they're doing, adding those two guys. Andrew.
Well, first off, I think the issue is we just named a whole bunch of outside backs, which is already a disqualifying criteria because we know that only center backs win this award, which is an absolute travesty. But yeah, I'm right on board with kind of the whole vibe. I had a short list of just some of the center backs from the top 6 defensive teams. And when you look at Seattle, 34 goals conceded, easily the best in the league, 3rd in the West. And one of the things that stood out to me is Yamar has been nominated for this award 2 of the last 3 years and has been absolutely robbed of it. And I think that this is finally the year he's given his dues. And I also want to give a shout out to whoever at Red Bull had the audacity to put Noah Isla on this list, because goodness me, that takes some guts. So I'll leave it at that.
He's fantastic. He's the new modern center back, and I know Red Bull hasn't been putting it together. He's a fantastic player, a great addition. He should not be named with the Amars of the world just yet, but this time next year, he might be there.
I'm putting it out there.
Wonderful in possession. Wonderful in possession. He's great with his line breaking passes. I watched multiple games this year where the ball went over his head and he caught it. Like,
Yeah, that's
just
what
little
you do, though.
things
I mean,
like
you know,
can't let him get through, right? Ball or man, but not both, right?
I'm putting it out there with all the Seattle talk. I'm going to just randomly just throw out my prediction out there. You know, I see them in the West Coast final against the LA Galaxy. So just putting that out there. I think the Sounders are that team that nobody wants to play once the playoffs start. Dion.
Yeah, so I hate the Defender of the Year award because it does include like the left back and right back, because I have to give a shout out to Brooks Lennon because he is a huge contributor to Atlanta, and that's just biased because I'm an Atlanta fan, but Lennon is such a huge contributor in the attack for Atlanta, the non-existent attack that we have, but he's always good in the attack, and I think that he plays good defense. So I think that this should be a split award, like if they really are going to do it, because usually a center back wins it. But I had two people that I looked at in this one. It was Camacho and Yamar, just like these guys, and I would have to go with him because just what was it, 30? Tommy, I'm sorry, I just read that. I read it. I read his comment. I'm sorry. What was it, 34 and 33 games or something like that, goals scored. I think, Bob, you mentioned that. Like that's a fantastic stat. And I would have to say that I would have to choose him over Camacho, even though I think Camacho is good. I think what really ruined it is their match against Inter Miami. That's when he got the second yellow, which really wasn't a second yellow in my opinion. Watching that game where he had a slide tackle and he hit the ball, but I think he played terrible. I think he played terrible against Inter Miami in that game, so that kind of ruined it for me.
All right. And while I'm with you already, Dion, who would your goalkeeper of the year be?
I would have to go with Charlotte's keeper. He's just all around.
Yep.
The top 5, I think, in pretty much every stat, I believe, that if I remember correctly. So I would have to go with Charlotte's goalkeeper.
With the clean sheet? Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Andrew.
Yeah, this one was tough for me because as a very vocal Red Bull supporter, it was very tough for me to come out week after week.
You want Matt Freese?
I had Matt Freese for a long time, and we actually did a mid-season MVP, goalkeeper of the year sort of thing way back when, and he was easily number 1. But he has dropped off a little bit, and Christian Kalina has stepped up his game massively. I think he's leading the PSXG plus minus. He is 2.8 saves above average compared to the next guy, who's Roman Berkey. He's got the least goals against for any goalkeeper with 30 plus appearances. He's top 10 in percentage of crosses dealt with. He's top 3 in actions outside of his PK area. I mean, he is doing everything that you ask of a goalkeeper to do, step by step by step, and he does it well in all aspects of his game. And there's a reason that Charlotte are so defensively sound for all of that. And because I never want to give NYCFC players any sort of credit at all, it's gonna be Christian Kalina for me.
I'm with you. I was with Freeze for a while also, but I'm on the Kalina boat now. Bob, who do you got?
Yeah, I think this is really hard because with goaltenders, it's kind of like we remember the bad and not always the good. You know, it's like a moment that the exceptional moments stick in your mind. So you just got to go with Patrick the stats.
Schulte. Don't say Patrick Schulte, please.
No, I'm going with Christian Kalina, of course, Charlotte FC.
Okay.
And again, you know, he's been spectacular all season. 5th in saves, 3rd in save percentage, 3rd in clean sheets. And the stat that I really, blew me out of the park here, 1st in post-shot expected goals against. So like XGA minus goals. He's given up 10 goals less than would be expected by any other keeper. And that's just a stat you can't ignore. And if you add that 10 goals to Charlotte's defense, like, you know, they're just, you know, they're still very good, but that's why I went Charlotte for goalie and Seattle for defender.
Okay, that makes sense. I like that. And Fabian.
Yeah, look, I just want to say this first. Daniel didn't even play for San Jose today or this year, so I don't even know why he's on this list. It should be Yarborough. But not a lot of people know that because nobody watched San Jose this year. But,
I would have just breezed right through that. Okay.
but Kalina, like everybody here said, had the best season. It was a three-headed race, like halfway through the season with Stuber, Kalina, and Freeze. But I think Kalina just kind of took off with it by the end. Dean Smith has that defense and goalkeeper playing lights out. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So we're all on the Kalin sheet. I like that. All right. Now this one. Before we get into the comeback player of the year, real quick. 2 years ago, Gonzalo Higuain won this award, which I thought was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Gonzalo Higuain came back from being benched. That's what he came back from. He got benched by Phil Neville, came back, had a good second half of the year, and somehow won comeback player of the year. I'm assuming this is coming back from injury or missing a lot of time. That's what I would assume. Anybody here, can you clarify this for me? That's what this is, correct? You're just coming back from a long time off. And if it's being benched, I don't think you should be considered a candidate.
Yeah, usually it's injury, right? I think we can all agree. Like in any other sport, it's an injury or something that keeps you away from the game.
Well,
it actually says
he got benched.
On the screenshot that you took from that, like the part that you cut off actually gives the qualifications for comeback player of the year. It says honors an MLS player who has overcome a severe injury and or adversity, thus missing a significant portion of the 2023 season and shown improved performance to achieve success through the 2024 season. Eligible players must have appeared in at least one match this season.
Okay, well, see, that makes it even odder what happened in 2022 because he got benched, but he got benched that same season. The season before, he just played poorly, so I guess that's the adversity. I'm sorry.
His adversity was being really bad.
Yeah, it was really confusing. I'm going to be a homer here with Ian Frey simply because he's coming back from 3 torn ACL injuries, and he's come back and he's played like a stud. And honestly, outside of Lewis Morgan, I don't know who else I would pick here because I'm not. I mean, Lewis Morgan, I guess would be my next choice. But I'm gonna go Ian Frey just because I know the history and the tough road he's had coming back. But that's probably the only homer pick I'm gonna give you today. Bob, who would you go?
Yeah, I'm going with the Inter Miami player too. Former Inter Miami player, Lewis Morgan, absolutely on this one. 14 goals, 3 assists in his first season at RBNY. He had an injury, had only 298 minutes last year with a hip tear. And, a quick Google search shows that the hip tear that he took had as low of a likelihood of returning to performance as 25%. That was his expected chance to ever play soccer at a high level again. 13 goals, 4 assists in almost 26 90s this season and reinventing himself. He is not a midfielder anymore. His best place on the field has been striker alongside Dante Benzier, and his numbers could have been much better had he had the full season of the services of Emil Forsberg, the star number 10 who went down. So he did it with less around him than anything. And if you watch Red Bull, you know just how clueless this team is on offense. No creative ideas at all when Emil Forsberg isn't on the field. Lewis Morgan was able to provide a little bit of that. And the fact that any player on this team had double-digit goals was quite honestly shocking. It's got to be Lewis Morgan.
Yeah, like I said, Lewis Morgan, that's who I would go with if it wasn't for Ian Frey. But like I said, Ian Frey, and the fact that he is a center back, and when they brought him back and they put him at right center back. I'm sorry, at right back, and he's been having to play fullback for the majority of the season, a position that's new to him, and he's been playing well there. So that's why I would go Ian Frey. But I get the Lewis Morgan. I probably would have chosen that also if not for Ian Frey. Dion, who are you going comeback player of the year?
So my two were just like you all, Lewis Morgan and Frey, but I would have to choose Lewis Morgan over Frey. Just pretty much what Bob said. He has performed very well, and without Forsberg, that team is pretty much nothing, non-existent, and he has done well even without him. But Frey coming back and, like you said, coming back playing right back, that's also fantastic, but I would have to. My vote would be for Lewis Morgan.
Andrew.
Yeah, that's an easy one for me. Not, we talk a lot about what he did for Red Bull, right? And you saw how bad our attack was in 2023, It got a little bit better in 2024. Still not great. But he played his way from, like Bob mentioned, having a 25% chance of coming back all the way to a spot in the Euros, all the way to a spot as a full Scottish national team player. Now he got called in again for their qualifier. I think their qualifiers up for this next one, maybe their Nations League, whatever's going on. But he's been consistently called into the Scottish national team after having this injury. If that doesn't highlight a fantastic comeback, I don't know what does. Ian Frey, of course, my number 2, like everybody else's. I think, when you talk about adversity, 3 ACL tears is adversity defined. But he, I remember watching him. I was impressed when he first started playing, and then he went down, and I felt bad. But this is a Lewis Morgan award for me.
Look, I'm okay with that. Like I said, I could see Lewis Morgan winning for sure. Fabian.
Yeah, look, I just wanted to say, is Maxi Morales on here because he's old?
I don't know why Maxi Morales is here, because he didn't play a lot, I guess. I don't know, coming off the bench a lot.
Honestly, I just think it's definitely odd to have some of those guys on here. I think if we're all looking at the definition of an injury and then coming back after that, definitely Ian Frey, I think, has a bigger story, especially when Messi dedicated the win for him, and then asking him after, he dedicates this back to Messi, things like that makes it like a nice, heartfelt story. I would say Lewis Morgan's a nice one too. If we look at stats, Robin Ludd is another person that's on this list. And last season he had about 900 minutes with 0 goals and 2 assists. This season had about 2,300 minutes with 6 goals and 15 assists. So another player that deserves a shout, I think, is Robin Ludd, because, that's a real big difference compared to what he had last year in terms of stats. But Lewis Morgan does have a story of an injury as well, plus having good stats. So I think it's going to go Lewis Morgan, in my opinion.
Well, and Lewis Morgan, the fact, and I hate that. I hate talking about Lewis Morgan because I hate that we got rid of him. But the fact that he does it on such a poor attack, like the Red Bulls, like Bob said, are often lost in the attack, and Lewis Morgan is just awesome. I miss him and his accent. I miss both those things. All right, and then no, go ahead, Bob. You have something to say?
No. I'll talk about Lewis Morgan for another 10 minutes if you want me to, but
no, I could do the same. My wife could do the same also. She loved Lewis Morgan. All right. So, and then finally, Impact Player of the Year. Again, Bob, maybe you can enlighten me on what the heck this is. I don't know what Impact Player of the Year is. The fact that Drake Callender made the save to win the Supporter Shield and clinch it, I'm just going to throw it out there, but I have no idea.
So Impact Player of the Year is the Audi Goals Drive Progress Impact Award. It's for players who do charitable efforts and serving the community in 2024.
Okay,
I have no idea either.
Yeah. I have no idea. When I heard Impact Player, I was like, okay. So does anybody have any idea? Anybody that does anything nice in the community? Drake is an awesome dude. I'm sure he does plenty of nice stuff. I have no idea what he does. He's all into yoga, but I don't know anything else.
Guys who stick out on the list for me, I'm all over social media, so I kind of see things that pop up. Ilie Sanchez is always very involved in the communities in LA. That's something that I know. He's always the nicest guy to the media. I feel like Drake Callender is kind of the same way. He's always super nice to media, always takes any question that's asked, calm, cool, and collected. Also, another guy, Jonathan Osorio, kind of went to the supporters and kind of asked for their, basically sorry for the shitty season they were having. So if that is something, talking to the community, that's some way of doing it. That kind of sticks out to me. But yeah, those are the 3 that I've seen the most of. Kellen Acosta, always nice to the media, but I unfortunately didn't see anything where he did things for the community. But I'm not so tapped into the Chicago Fire fan base.
Yeah, I know Jalen Neal worked with Herbalife, and they built soccer pitches around mini pitches around California. So I know that. And I know his mom tweets at us on Twitter all the time. So that's the one I know. However, unfortunately, there's the thing about not knowing about this, there's someone on this list who did something amazing, and we're about to find out, and that's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to hear. I love these stories, kind of like the NFL has the Man of the Year award, stuff like that. I don't know this story, but we're going to find out something nice about one of these.
I might even reach out to MLS and say that myself, be like, hey guys, these guys probably all did great things, but maybe a little rundown, a little video or something.
Yeah, I'll text MLS tomorrow too with my humble brag. I'm Fabian. I can.
No. You're in
Oh,
New York. You can watch over there. No, you're in New York.
On
So you can
Garber right
easily-
now.
No. I didn't mean it like that. My bad.
Did we just
Daniel
lose a
got
host?
here? Oh my God! It might have. Daniel might have just lost power or something. I can't. I always thought it was crazy we were doing
Oh, there he is.
that hurricane finally is coming through. It's finally taking us down. So, but we got through almost the whole show. So I guess I'm gonna end it with this. I have a question for everybody here: MLS Cup or Supporter Shield? I keep hearing the different discussions all of a sudden. Some people say, "Oh, it's harder to win Supporter Shield," which I get, but I'd rather win what gives me the star on top of the badge. Different people have different opinions. I'm kind of curious what you guys have to say. And also, as far as let me just hear what you guys have to say, and then I'll add that last part. Bob, Supporter Shield or MLS Cup?
MLS Cup. And if you're a Red Bull fan, you would not be saying that Supporter Shield is more difficult to win. 3 of them, I've held them all 3 times, have pictures with them, and I would trade all 3 for an MLS Cup anytime, any day. And it's part of the American sports atmosphere. There's a reason one was created by the league and one was created by fans, because the league had no interest in giving it out. And that's because MLS Cup is a championship. Sorry, Cincinnati fans, not you. You're not champions. It is MLS Cup. There's just no doubt about it. I like how people are putting more and more into the Supporter Shield. It makes a good story if you want to try to collect both. But again, held it in my hands multiple times, not interested. Show me someone who values a shield over a cup, and I'll show you someone who's never won a cup before.
And okay, if you could, would you eliminate the playoffs and just have the champion be the Supporter Shield champion?
No.
Okay, me either.
No, it's America, and what it is it's about the final moment. Like if you take that away, and now we've been
the
lucky.
season's basically over, and we still got another week to play.
We've had Miami, they won it in good form, and we've been lucky with a few teams, but there are teams overseas and they lock in the championship in a very unceremonious way. Like they're not even on the field. Someone else loses and then they win.
Right.
In the US, it's about big moments. It's about performers performing in big moments. And because of that reason, when you have a tournament bracket, mark it on your calendar. Super Bowl is this day. MLS Cup is that day. We're going to watch both, and we know there's going to be a party no matter what. No best of 7. No, you know what day you got to call off of work. Do it now. Get the personal day in, and you're set.
Me and Bob finally agree on something. I'm 100% with you. Andrew.
I am a Shield truther until the day I die, and by that I mean until Red Bull win a cup. Because, I was up until they stopped playing every team. I actually was a Shield over Cup guy because I was always big on the 34 games versus 4 games. But once you stop playing every team and making it where you actually have a comparison playing, Red Bull didn't get a chance to play every team in the West this year. And I'm pretty sure we got away with playing not a lot of the top teams in the West. I think we got most of the bottom teams, if I remember correctly. And for that, you can't make a legitimate comparison. It's an important trophy, don't get me wrong. And I understand it just like Bob did. I've held it before. It's one of the coolest days. Me and my pops got down and got to see the Shield for the first time. One of the coolest days. I'll never forget it. But I do understand the lack of love for it because it's not a true comparison of team versus team and form. So I will take 2 of the Supporter Shield and trade them for an MLS Cup. But I do want to keep the one that I held because it's pretty cool.
All right. You were at one point there. Dion.
So I just want to say I'm jealous that you all are close enough to a team that you get to hold the shield of your team and all of that. The closest team to me is Columbus, and it's 3.5 hours away. But I have to say that it's just an American thing. The MLS Cup is more important. I think that the shield should be more important because you have to be more consistent and perform at a high level to get that. But I would have to go, just like Bob and said it all. Like, the date, it's going to be a celebration. No matter the outcome, it's going to be someone's lifting the trophy, fireworks are going off. So I would have to go with the MLS Cup.
All right. We're so far all in cohesion. Fabian.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna go with the trophy that actually gets celebrated on the field after they win it, and that's MLS Cup. I don't understand why the Shield wasn't, thrown out there for Messi to have it on the pitch after the game, or what rules are set up and what this all is. It's an MLS trophy, but it's not. But it's a supporters trophy. But then why do we celebrate it? So I don't know. The whole ordeal was a very, very eye-opening experience for me. I guess they broke the rules giving the trophy to Messi in the locker room, but then they're going to look past it because
you got to get the photo op.
Yeah, well, that's my thing too. So after that whole debacle, MLS Cup over Shield all day. I mean, it's not even close. How about this? I'm gonna even put League's Cup over Supporters Shield.
There we go. Well, before the season, we do our Inter Miami show, and we were talking about like what is a successful season. We said 2 trophies, and the Supporter Shield wasn't even mentioned because I didn't consider it a trophy. So that tells you what I thought about the Supporter Shield. Now, once we had a chance to get it, I was like, yeah, that's cute, but I wanted it for home field advantage throughout the playoffs, not because of anything else, to be honest with you. Because the Supporter Shield, to me, I didn't take it too seriously. But we're all on lockstep there. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It looks like the hurricane's finally arriving. My internet went out for like a couple minutes, so I don't know what happened there. I don't know if you guys – I had the thing out there, so I don't even know if you guys noticed or not. But, yeah, so I left you guys for a couple minutes. But I'm back, and I appreciate you guys. I'm going to bring you guys on one more time here in the middle just so you guys can just remind everybody where they can find you before we sign off. Bob.
Yeah, you can find me at thedesignatedpundits.com, youtube.com/@ For some reason, they make you say at the designated pundits, or you can go to betus.com.pa, place some wagers and see my videos there. YouTube.com, go to the BetUS Soccer Show, and you could find us there along with some really, really great other handicappers in the sport.
There you go. Andrew.
Yeah, so you can find myself and my co-host Connor at the Designated Players and MLS Podcast on YouTube. We're also on TikTok and Twitter. We're a little bit less active on those, but YouTube we're pushing 550 now. We're trying to get to 600. But yeah, TikTok and Twitter are 2 other main ones. Just look up the Designated Players and you'll find us.
Awesome. And I got my guy Dion, Nerd Soccer Guy.
Yeah, Nerdy Soccer Guy, pretty much on everything. YouTube, just Nerdy Soccer Guy. Twitter, Nerdy Soccer Guy. TikTok, Nerdy Soccer Guy. That's where to find.
And then Mr. Leagues Cup himself, Mr. Fabian Rankel.
You can find me at League's Cup. You can you can find me at Fabian Rankel. But guys, make sure I'm going to take a second to say, make sure to follow all these guys that were on the show. They all run great shows themselves. I've even listened to or even been on multiple shows of theirs. So take the second to make sure you follow them too.
All right. And then you took the words right out of my mouth. Make sure you listen to everybody. This is the point of the show. I want to help grow the community. And usually we just have team-specific podcasters on here talking about their specific teams, but there's plenty of MLS podcasters out there that cover the whole league. So make sure that you follow everybody here. And for me, I'm Daniel Granada, do Battered Herons. We do that 4 times a week, and then once in Spanish. And then we do Battered MLS Fans every Tuesday night. This time we had to do it Wednesday, had a couple things pop up, but usually every Tuesday night, 10 o'clock, Battered MLS Fans. We usually have a panel of other podcasters and content creators joining us to talk all things MLS. So make sure that if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and join us every Tuesday. Again, thank you to everybody that joined us. If you guys were in the chat, we appreciate you guys. You guys are the best part of the show. Thank you for hanging out with us for the last hour and 10 minutes. And that is all. We'll be back next Tuesday talking about Decision Day. So until the next one.
Hey, if you get real quickly, if you guys follow San Jose Earthquakes and then sign up for season tickets, maybe we get a good player next year. So I appreciate that.
There you go. Fight for San Jose. All right, guys. Until the next one. Have a good one.